Hello everybody and welcome to another Doctor Who review. It's Big Finish review time again. This time it's the Sixth Doctor audio adventure, Bloodtide. Time for a rambling plot synopsis to start off this review. Here it is. In prehistoric Earth, the Silurians are preparing to hibernate. Tulok, a scientist, has created a genetic abomination and is sentenced to death by his fellow Silurians on the Earth's surface, which is no longer suitable for the Silurians to survive on. He is saved by another Silurian, Shivak. However, the abominations are let loose on the Earth's surface. 1835. The Doctor takes Evelyn to the Galapagos Islands where they meet Charles Darwin. Darwin is only a few days away from processing and creating his theory in evolution. The Doctor has warned Evelyn not to change the course of history too early and let Darwin figure it out himself. Meanwhile, the governor of the island, Governor Lawson, is putting to death a local fisherman, seen as a traitor. The fisherman is then taken to the local jail and is taken away by the Silurians. The Doctor decides to go and find out what happened to this fisherman and meets up with the Silurians, including Tulok and Shivak. Tulok is disgusted the fact that humans have taken over the planet and believes that the Silurians are superior beings and is using the prisoners as a way of getting food stocks. It is established in this story that Silurians eat humans. It's found that Tulok had sabotaged the timer mechanism for the hibernation units, and most of the Silurians had died apart from the select few that Tulok kept alive. It's also revealed the abominations that Tulok created were actually primitive humans. Tulok, in his neurosis, believes that he is their master, their god, and wants to ensure the humans become slaves to him. Unable to overpower the humans in their current form, he has, along with Shivak, created a genetic virus that creates a pandemic that kills human adults, only leaving newborns to be brought up as slaves. It's down to the Doctor and Evelyn to stop Tulok's plan, with the help of Darwin and the captain of the Beagle. The Silurian space is blown up, and Tulok is devoured by an adult Merker on his escape submarine. There's your plot details for Bloodtide, starring the Sixth Doctor Colin Baker and his companion Evelyn Smythe, played by Maggie Stables. Let's go through the cast list, let's go through some of the ins and outs of the story, have a chat about what my thoughts are on this review. So, we start off with Colin Baker, the Sixth Doctor. Do you know what? They have found the way for Colin Baker's Sixth Doctor to come across, not just with the slight pomposity that the Sixth Doctor has, but also there's a lot more to the character now than you see in the TV series. He's a lot more mellow. Evelyn has taken the sharp edges away from him rather quickly. She kind of puts him down when he's going too far, but do you know what? We are seeing a very kind, a very thoughtful, but still that kind of fatalistic Sixth Doctor that I think is a good trait that's portrayed by Colin Baker here. I actually do like the performance. I really am starting to appreciate with these audio reviews and listening to these stories again, how good an actor Colin Baker is when he's given the right material. And you know what? He doesn't put a foot wrong in this. He really doesn't. He actually adds to the script and makes it more interesting than what would actually be the case, because the script is, I wouldn't say it's bad. It's a strong-ish script, but it needs the actors to flourish to make it work better. And Colin Baker is the great anchor point for that. And it seems to follow down into the rest of the cast. It does help when he's got Maggie Stables playing Evelyn beside him. And Maggie Stables, I just love the character of Evelyn, this kind of, slightly curmudgeonly older lady, but she's got that spirit of a young person in her, and it really just comes out. And her put downs, the Doctor, I really do enjoy the put down she has here at various points within it, and I think it's one of the better writings for Evelyn. I think they're starting to understand Evelyn better as a Big Finish audio drama. I mean, they created as a character, and the first couple of stories I liked Evelyn in, but this is the first one I've actually really appreciated Evelyn for who she is, and you really start rooting for her when she's doing her bits and pieces separately with Darwin, and the fact that she does take the Doctor's advice not to influence Darwin, and she actually is very much the mentor, which really is well played by Maggie Stables and really is an enjoyable turn. We then have Darwin himself, played by Miles Richardson. Of course, we're talking about Darwin here, who's a lot younger. This is Darwin in his younger years, as Evelyn points out, that she thought she was going to meet Darwin with the beard and the grey hair. But no, we're talking about the man who was doing his expeditions in the Beagle when he was a young man. And the fact that the intelligence and the way it's written, you do gradually see Darwin starting to realise all the connections, especially with the birds, which is probably one of the most famous moments, the different birds on the different islands in the Galapagos and how he's realised they've got slightly different beaks. And even though the story goes into the Silurians effectively being the missing link, which is the science fiction aspect, that helps reinforce Darwin's thoughts. Obviously, he was politely asked at the end not to talk about that in his writings and his journals, which obviously he didn't. And I think is an interesting little side note. But Miles Richardson, I think, plays Darwin believably. You understand this is the same man that will do the books about evolution later in his life, and you can tell that he's having a crisis of faith, which is something that Darwin possibly isn't really seen for, because Darwin did have a crisis of faith when he found out about evolution. I don't think that's really covered that well when you talk about the history of Darwin himself, so it's nice to have that element, and it's played really well by Miles Richardson when he gets that sort of material. It's really quite nice. We then have Captain Fitzroy, played by George Telfer. He's a slightly glorified plot point. He is there just to help move the plot along. It's not badly performed, but there's not much to the character. He's just the captain of the Beagle. He's there as the figure of authority on the Beagle and helps out later on, but, it's nothing special really. We then have Governor Lawson, played by Julian Harries. I love the fact we've got a Yorkshire accent for this governor, and it does give a kind of selfish gravitas to Lawson, because obviously Lawson is the governor. He seems to be under control of the Silurians, and the way Lawson is portrayed here and written, you need somebody who has that kind of slightly I don't care attitude, which is portrayed very well by Julian Harris here, and acted very well as well. The only other two I'm going to talk about is Helen Galwin, who returns to play another role before she becomes a regular director on the monthly range. Shivak, the chief scientist in Tulok's regime. Very nicely played. You can see there's an empathetic side, and that's the thing with all the Silurian stories. There always tends to be one Silurian who understands the other side and wants to feel they're doing the right thing. And it's Shivak that is told by the Doctor that the timing mechanism's been manipulated, and Shivak then sees that the right thing to do is to help the Doctor stop Tulok, because Tulok is effectively going to be causing genocide to an extent, and it's not right. And it's not fair, and because he's effectively caused genocide for his own people, Shivak knows how unhinged he actually is. Then we do have Daniel Hogarth playing Tulok. I think Tulok works really well here, and I think it's a great little character. The whole backstory of the Silurians is developed here, which is nice, and Tulok is a great foil for all the prejudices that you get, and it's a nice allegory, and I'll go into a bit more about that when we go into the writing and the plotline at the moment. But Daniel Hogarth, what he gets, he plays brilliantly, and I think it lifts the performance as well, and it's influence from Colin Baker leading from the front and Maggie Stables supporting him that the rest of the cast do kind of lift their game a little bit, which makes it a more enjoyable listen. The story itself, the way it's written, it is a basic plot line by Jonathan Morris. I'm not saying that it's really intricate. I think the cast make it more than anything else. But there's interesting ideas there. The parallel of Darwin trying to figure out this theory of evolution with the whole backstory of Tulok trying to subvert it with his abominations that happen to be primitive humans who've obviously evolved into the modern day humans. That's a nice little link. I love the fact that they've kind of influenced the fact that the Silurians are carnivores and who they'd eat, and they've kept to the same thinking they had in both the third and fifth Doctor stories where the Silurians appear, that these beings see themselves as superior and don't want to coexist with the humans on here, and that kind of xenophobia that comes out here, it does work really well, and it's been notched up a level with the way that Tulok is obsessed with his creations and then is revolted by them but still wants to control them, and his genocidal tendencies. It's a step up from what we've seen before, and it's a nice development of the Silurian race and how the Silurians are seen. Obviously this story happens in the timeline before the other two meetings with the Silurians that we have in Doctor Who, because the Third Doctor met them in the 1970s/80s, unit dating issues aside, and it's 2084 when the Fifth Doctor meets them in Warriors of the Deep. So this is a good 150 years before the Doctor's first meeting with the Silurians in the 1970s/80s. So it's an interesting way of having a backstory which develops the characters more in the Doctor's timeline and his understanding of them, but also it's a nice timey-wimey element to it, and I like the positioning of where it is in the plotline. I think it works quite well. I think Jonathan Morris, for his first main range story, Jonathan Morris becomes more prolific and does better scripts. I think it's a good first start here, and I think it's a nice little start. Gary Russell obviously has a lot to do here in regards to the direction, because there's a lot of concepts to go through, and it's interesting how he manages to merge it together, but he seems to direct it well. You get the sense that he's controlled it a little bit more than what you would get with Nicholas Briggs normally, because Nicholas Briggs seems to let the actors shine and do their own thing. I think he's let the Doctor and Evelyn have their own banter and rapport work as normal, but the other characters, he's tried to direct them in such a way that benefit the plot. I think they do work. I think the direction's quite neat here. The audio, sound and music is by Alistair Locke. Alistair Locke, he's still using the influence of the era, so he is getting a kind of 80s feel to the music and the incidental music, but it didn't stand out to me. It wasn't grating, it wasn't causing major problems for me in regards to enjoying the story, and it actually was just nice undertoning and lifting highlights as it normally should do. It's a pretty competent piece of work, and you can tell practice is making perfect here with them all. Overall, I do like the story. I think it's quite fun. I don't think it's quite a 4 TARDIS out of 5. There is a few flaw points here. I think it's a fairly basic story. I don't think it's got a lot of in-depth here. It's nice the elements they're adding into the Silurian lore. I think that's quite interesting. But overall, I would give this a rating of 3.5 TARDISes out of 5. So, Bloodtide joins a growing list of 3.5 TARDIS out of 5 stories. Let's see how it's placed within all the other stories that we've reviewed so far. As I say, Bloodtide is with 3.5 TARDIS out of 5. There is now a total of 14 stories with that rating, including The Sands of Time, Whispers of Terror, The Fearmonger, The Fires of Vulcan, The Mutant Phase, and Minuet in Hell. At the bottom is still 2 stories, with 3 TARDIS out of 5, The Land of the Dead and Winter for the Adept, and at the top is still 1 story, with 4.5 TARDIS out of 5, and that is The Apocalypse Element. That's it for this review of Bloodtide. Tell me what you think about this audio drama. Leave a comment down below. Do you like it? Leave a comment down below. Do you not like it? Leave a comment down below. And if you like this video, please like it, share it with the hashtag teamstructor, hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell so you know when a new video comes out. General rule, new video every Sunday at 4 PM GMT, but not this time. On Wednesday at 6 PM GMT, we have the first impression of The Legend of Ruby Sunday, the penultimate episode of Doctor Who Season 1, or Series 14, or Series 40, or whatever you want to call it. It really is confusing now with all the season numbers. It's the penultimate episode of the current series, so hopefully you can join me for that. And apart from that, guys, thank you very much for watching, and you know what? I'll speak to you and I'll see you later.